Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Empyrion Galactic Survival episode 62. I'm Enigmas, and today we're doing something very different. We've built a playground of different blocks so that we can fulfill the request and the inquiries of some of the viewers who have come across the idea that they would like a little bit of help seeing how the blocks go together, getting some ideas on how they might be able to put things together for themselves in their own creations, their own ideas. And it's not necessarily the easiest thing to put together in a way that's meaningful. If I put them all together in the most simplistic ways, it feels a lot like pandering and just kind of showing people stuff that's so basic it won't really help them. But at the same time, if we do things too complex, it's too difficult when you're looking at the individual examples to be able to sort out exactly what's going on, which blocks are being used where. So I found what I'm hoping is kind of a happy middle ground that'll be useful without being a pain in the butt to make use of. And the purpose of this video is not to walk you through each and every single one of these blocks and all the different things that we've done with them, but to show you how this area is laid out on the top of this ship. And yes, it is a ship, so that you can have the blueprint. The blueprint is available immediately right now on Steam from the workshop. You can get it, you can build this in your own world, rather than just seeing the video and then kind of having to try and remember it and bring it into your game. You can build this ship in your game and then you can refer to it whenever you want, which is kind of neat. I hope that it's useful presenting it that way. So we're just going to start off, we're going to go through just enough to kind of get you started and understanding how things are laid out, and then we're going to leave it to you to kind of go through and do what you want from there. So to do this, I think we need to come over to this corner. You can see we've got this 45 degree and an arrow. This is the first thing that we'll talk about. Each of the blocks that we're using in each demonstration is on a black pedestal. You can see black pedestal and a block on top. Each individual demonstration is on a little rectangle of space that's defined by the color of the rectangle. So we've got kind of a darker gray rectangle for all this stuff here, and then it shifts to a lighter gray rectangle and then back to a darker gray, just to kind of keep things nice and neat and compartmentalized for you so you understand what applies to what. And this 45 degree here, pointing to technically here, but aiming mostly for this corner, is just a heads up and a reminder that if you want the easiest possible way to look at these blocks and figure out how to find them in the color picker, it's to look at them from a 45 degree angle based on the bottom right corner of the rectangle that they're in. So if you look over here, we've got a cube, which is the basic cube. Kind of tough to get that one wrong. But then if you look next to it, and I apologize that the glare from the lighting makes these things a little bit difficult to see, but there's not a whole lot I can do about it right now. But you can see we've got sort of this slope. It's like a cube that had a corner triangle cut off of it and left like that. But if you didn't know how to find that, it's a little bit kind of crazy to sort it out. You can go in here, and if you're looking at it at a 45 degree angle, this part here is going to look just like the one that we're looking at. Maybe even more accurate if you're looking at it slightly down, kind of like that. If you want to do that, that's fine, but you get the idea. If you're looking on at a 45 degree angle from the bottom right of the rectangle, you're going to get the best representation of what it looks like in the block picker to make it a little bit easier for you to find it. Now, the next thing of note is that everything is color coded. We've got blue, green, purple, and red are the colors that I tried to use through most of the deck here for each different section. Those are the colors that we use repetitiously, and the purpose again is to make it a little bit easier when things are assembled like this so that you can see exactly what blocks are being used in what spots. If we didn't do this with the color coding, it just gets to be, everything just kind of mashes together, and it's kind of tough to tell when one block ends and another one starts. So we've got the color coding to break that up to make it a little bit easier. You can see here we've got blue for the cube, and we've got another cube over here. Again, not that we're trying to teach you how to use a cube or anything. We've got the purple 45 degree slope. You can see that very easily here. But where it really shines, the example where it really shines is with the these two blocks here. We've got the green one. You can see by looking at it that that's what that is, obviously. And then over here, you can see we're looking at the sloped portion of that green one, and everything else is tucked in behind. That's all you could really see for this structure from here is that one. But if you didn't know that this is what we were using, Or if you knew what we were using, but this was all just one big block of one color, you might not necessarily recognize that these are that. So that's why we have that. And then of course the red sort of sloped corner goes together and we get what you see here. So that's the most basic example, and I use specifically the most basic blocks to present it to you. The color coding, the individual representation of the colors, and how to find them easier a little bit, how to recognize them so that you can find them easier in the block picker. Up here, we've got kind of an example, and this was an example that I wanted to use for a specific purpose. Same thing as before, we've got it in a specific colored section of the platform that we're on, so that we know that this is all grouped together. We've got everything color-coded, the specific blocks, and then we put them together in a particular shape. And in this example, I've used basically the way all of the blocks go together. If you're lining up all the faces perfectly, there's a time and a place for this. It happens, I use it all the time, lining things up like this. But if all I did was show you these examples of how everything comes together perfectly, eventually you would lose the benefit of how all this stuff can go together. This is a 22.5 degree slope that we put together with the relevant 22.5 degree blocks color coded so that you can see how it goes together, and then we stacked a couple more on top so that you can see it continues. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. This is the kind of thing of where if you were looking at this and you weren't quite clear exactly how it was going together just because of the way things are rotating, you can mess around with it. If you've got the blueprint, if you've got the ship built in your world, you can mess around with it and probably come to a better idea on your own with what's here than if I were to try to explain it. So this is an example of things going together in the most simplistic way, matching the faces so that everything lines up. Then going forward, you can see we get into some more abstract designs. So you can see this is some of the rounded block options that we're given. And then we come down here and again, color coded, we put them together in ways that produce shapes. And the whole idea here is you'll see these shapes coming together, hopefully, and at some point, some of the time at least, it'll spark something in your brain and say, I kind of like that, but what if I did it with this other block? And then all of a sudden you've got this idea that's all your own, and you can incorporate it in your builds, or mess around with it, put it together, and decide that you don't like it at all. And then you go on to the next idea, and it's basically the whole idea here that I use whenever I'm building anything is I try something, and if I don't like it, I pull it apart and I try something else. Over here we've got, it's almost like a skateboard park, I swear. These are sort of like the interior curves, the basic examples of the interior curves that we have access to. And again, just using the colors, putting them together, seeing how things go together. Not much to it. So that's basically how this thing is repeated throughout most of the deck. You can see here we got a little bit crazy with some of the newer blocks with the cones and things that you can put together, reminding people that as long as the blocks are together in the voxel world, they're considered to be together in the eyes of the game, even though if we look at it, there's no way that this could be attached to that. This should be teetering over, but it's not, because it's basically everything that we put together is a shape built within a cube, and all the game cares about is whether or not the cubes are stuck together. And in this case, this cube with this cone is stuck to this block below it because that is also within a cube. So interesting kind of ideas there. The last thing that I wanted to point out to you is these last two blocks, or two rectangular sections that are, they involve more blocks, more colors. None of the blocks are being put on the pedestals. I just left the pedestals blank. And the whole idea here is to give you an idea of just how you can play around with different things, put them together, have some fun, and again, using the colors to make sure that you can differentiate between where one block ends and the other begins, sort of thing. This is a number of the new blocks that were recently added to the game, being kind of paired together with some of the pre-existing blocks, and put together in a way that I can't see myself using this specific cluster of blocks for anything, but that's not to say that I'm unhappy with it, that there's no merit in it. It's actually a really great way to mess around and see how the new blocks connect with some of the pre-existing blocks, and you get some ideas that way that maybe hadn't originally come to mind. Over here we've got sort of the same thing, more of the rounded blocks kind of put together, weird shapes. You can take a look at it, and again, just trying to spark the imagination and give you some ideas. And then over here we've got some of the 22.5 degree blocks, some of the old ones along with some of the pre-existing ones along with some of the new ones, coming together with shapes and not necessarily worried too much about having everything come together nice and smooth and beveled off and all these other things. You can see the opportunity is pretty substantial. By the time you get to the end of this whole thing, you'll have seen most of the blocks that are in the game as of the time this video was made, and some examples of how they might go together in your own creations. And then you can kind of grab it from there and hopefully have a little bit of fun with it, mess around with it a little bit, and bring it into your own builds and feel a little bit better about the diversity and the creativity that you're being able to bring to bear, as opposed to just feeling stuck using the same handful of blocks over and over and over again, because nothing else just seems to fit together whenever you think of what you might want to do with it. So that's it. I don't want to drag this on too long and make it sound like it's more complicated than it is. It's not. Color-coded goodness segmented on top of a small vessel so that you can import it as a blueprint and mess around. That's why we're calling it the block playground. You can come around and make a mess of things, do whatever you want, and if you ruin the entire top of this ship, you can just build it from blueprint again and start all over. It is a ship. It is a bona fide legit ship. It's got a generator and it's got a fuel thing. It has no thrusters, but it does have lights up here, and you can you can adjust this framework and adjust where the lights are. You can move them up, you can do whatever you need to do, but that was just kind of a little thing that I wanted to put on there. No matter where you are, no matter how deep you've dug, if you can import this thing into your world, you can see what's going on and do what you need to do. The next episode, we're going to start on our next build. I'm just about done visualizing it. I've got a bunch of ideas that I want to put together for this build. It's going to be another hover vessel. It's going to be quite large. It's going to make use of a lot of the new blocks that were recently added, and I'm enthusiastic about it. So if you want to be notified about that and future videos, the easiest way to do that is to subscribe to my channel or follow me on social media. Links for social media are always in the information section below the video. The link for the blueprint is also in the information section below the video. Feel free to leave your comments and feedback. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.